stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Weird, weird.
It's just been the honor of a lifetime. I think any young person, any little girl, you get to put on a Disney princess dress.
The Snow White disaster just keeps getting messier. Disney thought they had a hit on their hands with the new version of a beloved classic that fans would fall in love with. Against their expectations, the very opposite happened. As soon as the trailer was released, it received nothing but hate. Honestly, at this point, it might be better for them to not release it at all. And it is not just the backlash from fans that's causing problems. Nope, the drama behind the scenes is just as bad. The two stars of the movie, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, are reportedly at each other's throats. So what really went wrong? And can Disney salvage this sinking ship? Let's find out. The controversial movie, Disney's live-action remake of Snow White, has become the movie nobody asked for, and yet somehow the one everyone is talking about, for all the wrong reasons. From the moment the project was announced, fans were skeptical about it, but things went from bad to worse once the trailers dropped. The changes Disney made to this classic fairy tale have been nothing short of shocking, and not in a good way. First, let's talk about the biggest issue, the controversial casting. Rachel Zegler as Snow White. Disney, in an attempt to give the story a modern spin, decided to cast an actress who does not exactly fit the traditional image of the character. While diversity in casting can work well when it respects the original material, in this case, it felt forced. We all remember Snow White as a character rooted in European folklore, with her name itself referring to her skin being as white as snow. But they cast a Latino actress for the role. Fans were quick to point out that this felt like a deliberate decision to push a certain narrative, rather than an organic choice that respected the source material. Disney's focus on making everything fit a modern mold was already rubbing people the wrong way, but that was just the start. The biggest shock, though, came with the changes to the story itself. Instead of staying true to the original Grimm brothers fairy tale, Disney decided to throw in some modern elements, completely disregarding the simplicity and charm that made the 1937 animated film so beloved. According to Zegler, the central love story is gone. We were also told at first that there were not going to be any dwarfs. In its place, we are told that we are getting a more empowered Snow White, with a storyline focusing on leadership and independence. Now, don't get me wrong, strong female characters are great, but did anyone ever watch the original Snow White thinking, you know what this needs? A leadership arc? Probably not. The changes felt like Disney was trying way too hard to be relevant, and in the process, they lost the heart of the story. Fans who grew up loving the original were left wondering why Disney felt the need to fix something that was not broken in the first place. But if the changes to the story were not bad enough, the person playing Snow White worsened the situation with her own controversial statements. The controversial statements. If there is one thing Rachel Zegler proved during the promotion of this movie, it is that sometimes silence is golden. Instead of simply promoting the film, she made headlines for all the wrong reasons with her bold and often disrespectful comments about the original Snow White. During one of her appearances, she called the 1937 version outdated and even implied that the relationship between Snow White and Prince Charming was problematic and stalkerish. That's right, it is exactly what she said. Somehow, in the context of a fairy tale created almost a century ago, Rachel decided to inject modern-day critiques that felt completely out of place. Her remarks sparked outrage among fans. For many, the 1937 film was a cherished piece of cinematic history, a story told with innocence and simplicity, one that didn't need to be dissected under the harsh lens of 2024's social critiques. Yet here was the new Snow White, tearing down everything that made the original beloved. It was not just that she criticized the film, but the way she did it felt tone-deaf, as if she had little respect for the role she was stepping into. Rachel also seemed to take pride in the fact that this new Snow White would not be waiting for a prince to save her, proudly stating that the new version would be focused on self-discovery and leadership. While that might sound fine on paper, it only added to the backlash. Fans don't want to watch Snow White for leadership lessons. They want the fairy tale magic that has now been stripped away. But these were not the only reasons that enraged fans. So how else did Disney mess up this time? The changes. From the moment the trailers dropped, social media was flooded with outrage, memes, and calls for Disney to rethink their approach. But why was the reaction so intense? Let's have a look. First, fans were furious about the removal of the Seven Dwarfs. The dwarfs are arguably just as important as Snow White in the original story. Their unique personalities, their comedic moments, and their emotional connection to Snow White are what made the 1937 film so magical. So when Disney decided to replace them with a bunch of CGI creatures, fans were understandably upset. People do not want to watch Snow White for fantastical animals, as the actors told us first about. People want to watch Dopey, Grumpy, and the gang. But it gets worse. After the backlash, Disney decided to backtrack and include the dwarfs after all, but by then the damage had been done. Fans felt like Disney was scrambling to fix a mistake they should never have made in the first place. And when the first images of the CGI dwarfs were revealed, let's just say the internet had a field day. Some fans even compared them to characters from Shrek with their awkward, uncanny valley look. It was clear that Disney had missed the mark, yet again. It is not like this movie needed any more bad press, but of course things only got worse when Peter Dinklage jumped in. If you thought the casting controversy was bad, wait until you hear about the dwarfs. Or should I say, the lack of dwarfs. Disney thought they were being so progressive by casting Rachel Zegler as a Latina Snow White, but Peter was not impressed. He slammed Disney for telling the same old backward story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, calling it out for its problematic portrayal of dwarfism. You would think Disney would have known better by now, but no. They went ahead and tried to solve the issue by replacing the Seven Dwarfs with a bunch of CGI creatures. And, surprise, fans were furious. It felt like Disney was just trying to cover up one mistake by making another, and the backlash was immediate. But not everyone was on Peter Dinklage's side. Actor and wrestler Dylan Postal, known as Hornswoggle in WWE, was quick to call out Dinklage, saying that his comments were costing actors with dwarfism valuable roles. And honestly, he has got a point. By removing the dwarfs entirely, Disney took away opportunities for actors who rarely get big roles in Hollywood. But instead of hiring real actors, Disney decided to overuse CGI. The original Snow White had a hand-drawn, enchanting quality that made it feel timeless, but this new version looked like a video game. The heavy reliance on green screen and computer-generated effects stripped away any of the magic that made the original so captivating. Fans were quick to point out that it felt more like a cash grab than a genuine attempt to honor the legacy of Snow White. The hate for this new Snow White is also about what these changes represent. Disney has been walking a fine line between modernizing its classics and staying true to what made them beloved in the first place. But with this film, it feels like they have completely lost sight of the balance. Fans are tired of the company forcing modern sensibilities and woke culture into their favorite stories. They want the magic and charm of the originals back, not heavy-handed attempts at being progressive. That Disney's attempt to update Snow White for a modern audience has backfired spectacularly. Fans are not buying it, and the growing hate for a children's movie tells us just how far Disney has drifted from what made them great in the first place. As if this was not enough, we got served with another drama from the set of this new Snow White movie. Turns out the stars of the movie are at each other's throats due to political reasons. Rachel Zegler versus Gal Gadot. The new Snow White movie is a disaster in every sense. One of the reasons is that Rachel and Gal could not be more divided. Their clash started over a highly sensitive topic, the Israel-Hamas conflict. And, as if the movie was not already drowning in enough controversy, this little feud has now gone public. Rachel has been very vocal about her pro-Palestinian stance, and Gal, born in Israel, has been just as outspoken in support of her country. This is not just a case of co-stars not getting along, they are literally at war over their political views. It all hit the fan when Rachel posted a tweet right after the trailer dropped, thanking her fans for watching, then casually throwing in a Free Palestine for good measure. Obviously, this was a direct shot at Gal, and it didn't go unnoticed. Fans immediately saw the tension, and honestly, who can blame them? It is like watching two stars battle it out in real time, and it is not doing the movie any favors. Gal didn't take Rachel's tweet lightly. Her team clapped back with a not-so-subtle retweet, criticizing people who try to campaign on the head of their co-star who has actually lived through war. It was a brutal comment, and even though the post was deleted, the damage was done. Everyone saw it, And now the off-screen feud is just as much a part of the Snow White disaster as the on-screen train wreck. Let's be real. Disney is probably pulling their hair out at this point. This movie was supposed to be a progressive, modern reimagining of a classic, and instead, it has turned into a political minefield. And as much as Disney wants to brush it off as no big deal, it is clearly a nightmare for their PR team. They have got two lead actresses who cannot stand each other, a movie that is already hated by fans, and now they are caught up in a very public political spat. It is a mess, and no amount of Disney magic is going to fix it. And the timing could not be worse. With the movie facing constant delays, fans are more skeptical than ever. The release of the trailer did little to calm the storm. People are still pissed, and Disney's not doing much to assure anyone that this movie will be worth watching. Add Rachel and Gal's drama to the mix, and it is no wonder fans are starting to wonder if this movie will ever actually see the light of day. Boycott and predictions. It was Rachel's little Free Palestine tweet that has worsened the situation for Disney. As if the political tensions between her and Gal were not bad enough, this sparked even more debate. People started questioning how these two could possibly work together when they cannot even stand to promote the movie in the same space. Seriously, how awkward is this press tour going to be? If they even manage to sit next to each other, it'll be a miracle. Pro-Palestine supporters have been calling for a boycott of the movie because of Gal's involvement, while supporters of Israel are furious with Rachel's remarks. It is a lose-lose situation, and the more these two feud publicly, the worse it gets. Honestly, who is even paying attention to the movie at this point? The off-screen drama has completely overshadowed the actual film. And let's be real, the movie itself was already teetering on the edge of disaster. Branding experts had a lot to say about this whole mess. They are pointing out that having your two lead actresses fighting like this means the movie is already flopped, especially when you are dreaming of making big bucks. In fact, this drama is not just hurting Disney's Snow White, it is likely going to leave a lasting mark on the careers of both Rachel and Gal. But just when we thought the Snow White disaster could not get worse, in comes the Daily Wire with an announcement no one saw coming. So what have they announced that has horrified Disney? The alternative. The big news is that the Daily Wire decided to swoop in and give us their own take on the classic. They have decided to release their own version of Snow White, and it might just be what we need after watching Disney turn a beloved fairy tale into a dumpster fire. Unlike Disney's modernized version, which seems to be more about political messaging than storytelling, the Daily Wire has promised to stick closer to the original Snow White tale without all the forced progressive themes. Fans have already fallen in love with this new version, which stars YouTube personality Brett Cooper, especially those fans who are fed up with Disney's constant need to inject every project with unnecessary changes. Let's be real for a second. Disney's Snow White remake feels like it has been designed by a committee trying to check every possible woke box. They stripped away the original magic of the story, ditched the dwarfs for CGI creatures, and gave us a Snow White who is all about leadership and empowerment instead of just being a kind, hopeful character. While there is nothing wrong with strong female leads, it is like Disney is so desperate to be seen as progressive that they forgot what made the original movie timeless. On the other hand, the Daily Wire's take feels like a breath of fresh air. They have promised to stick closer to the traditional story. They said that they would focus on the elements that made Snow White a classic. Fans who have grown tired of Disney's endless remakes and reboots filled with messaging that overshadows the actual story are turning their attention to this alternative version. Now, is the Daily Wire known for making blockbuster films? No, not really. But at least they are not trying to fix something that is not broken. And honestly, with the bar set so low by Disney's disaster of a remake, it feels like anyone could step in and do a better job. While the Daily Wire might not have the same resources as Disney, they seem to understand what fans actually want. A faithful retelling of the story we all grew up with, not a heavy-handed reimagining that alienates the audience. Brett Cooper, who is stepping into the role of Snow White for the Daily Wire's version, has already won over a lot of fans with her no-nonsense, down-to-earth attitude. Unlike Rachel Zegler, who has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons with her controversial statements about the original film, Cooper has kept things respectful and focused on the role. She has shown an appreciation for the character and the story, which is exactly what fans want from someone stepping into such an iconic role. And the fact that the Daily Wire is even attempting to go up against Disney in the first place is pretty bold. Disney has been the king of fairy tales for decades, but with the way things are going, they are starting to lose their grip. Fans are tired of the constant remakes, reboots, and revisions that strip away the heart of the original stories. And in walks the Daily Wire, ready to offer something different, something that feels like it is actually made for the fans, not for the money. Of course, the Daily Wire's version is not without its critics. Some have questioned whether they can truly deliver a high-quality film, given that they are not exactly known for their cinematic expertise. But at this point, the competition is not even about who can make the better movie. It is about who can give fans a version of Snow White that actually respects the story. And considering how Disney's version has been received so far, the Daily Wire might not even need a big budget to win over audiences. They just need to avoid the same mistakes Disney made. Whether the Daily Wire's version will be a cinematic masterpiece remains to be seen, but at least they are giving fans a choice. And in an era where it feels like every major studio is trying to outdo each other with their modernized takes on classic stories, that's refreshing. At the very least, it is nice to see someone stepping up to challenge Disney's monopoly on fairy tale adaptations. So, whose trailer did you like more, and which movie are you going to watch next year? Tell us in the comment below. If you want more updates on this drama, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.